Hello. How is everyone? I hope that you are good. So today is going to be the jungle Stitchalong, which is this prep video. So I'm just going to go over all of the materials that you need. Hi, George. And then I'll show you how to watercolor the river and the background if you want to. So just a quick word on that. A lot of these things are optional. So you just need to pick what you think would be good for you. Do you know what I mean? So a couple people said, do we have to use watercolor? No, you don't. You do not have to use watercolor. Someone said, do we have to stitch the water? No, you don't. I'm going to show you how to watercolor the background green on the top and the bottom, and then watercolor the river part. And that is just because I don't want to stitch the whole background. But that's all personal preference. If you have loads of time and you really want to do that, then go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. No one is stopping you. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of things and go over all of the materials that you could use. Again, nothing is mandatory. They're just suggestions, really. So yeah, I've missed you guys. I've missed coming on here. I'm not going to lie. So let's just get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the pens to transfer the image onto your fabric. So I'll show you how to do that in just a minute, but here's the different pens that you can use. So obviously there's just a regular pencil. The pros and cons to a pencil is that everybody has pencils, so they're not special, if you know what I mean. Obviously the con is that when you draw on the fabric, it's really difficult to get it off. Some people swear by just erase it and it'll be fine. But it's never worked out for me. So I tend to not use a pencil. The other one is the Disappearing Ink pen. I got this from Joann Fabrics in the States a really long time ago. And actually my mom sent me a couple as well. And I would not choose this necessarily for this project because these pens, they disappear on their own over time. So they do make a nice purple line, but they'll just like evaporate. They'll just disappear. I found when you get the pen, they disappear quicker, and the longer you've had the pen, they tend to linger a little bit. But again, it is an option. The third way is the Keurig water erasable marker. There's a lot of other brands too, but this is the one that I found like the most readily available. They're not very expensive. I think they're like £1 or $1. And again, they have different colors too. So you've just got a nice line like that. You need to wash this off with water. So if you're not comfortable putting water on your project when you're finished, then I would not choose this option. Some people just don't like doing that. So that's up to you. The other option is the Frixion. They're by Pilot. I'll show what they look like there. Guys, I need to do my nails. And they are heat erasable. So these are actually erasable by friction. That's what they're marketed to do. So let's have a look here. If I've got any paper, I do just here. Okay, so you can draw, and then you're supposed to use the eraser on the back, and you use the friction to erase it. Now, obviously, when it dries, if you wait for it to dry, yeah. And you see how you can still see my name on there? It's kind of the same thing that will happen when you use the heat to erase your lines afterwards. So sometimes little lines show up. It hasn't really happened to me much. More with the yellow, orange, red colors. I found that happens more. But yeah, so there's different thicknesses. This is a 10, so you'll get a different thickness with the different numbers. So obviously 10 is the thickest. Then you have 7 here, and I'll show you that as well. And then you have 5 here for the details. So you'll have different thicknesses of lines depending on what you like. I like the blue ones. I like the purple ones. I like the black ones. I tend to stay away from pink, red, orange. Some people swear by those colors and they love them, but I tend to just use these. And then all you need to do when you're done is just take your blow dryer and blow dry it off, and the lines will disappear. Now, the longer you have this on your fabric, the harder it will be for it to disappear. So I know I have a couple. I thought I had them right here, but I don't. But yeah, I have a couple hoops that I've had prepped for like over a year, and you can tell they're kind of like going a little bit yellow. Do you know what I mean? Like they're fading a little bit. But for a month, they will be absolutely fine. So I definitely recommend this. You can get them at Target. I know you can get them at like Office Max or Office Depot. I remember one of them doesn't have them, Office Max or Office Depot, because I remember my mom looked there and she couldn't find them. But you can also find them here in England. You can go on Amazon. You can go to, someone said Tesco's had them. I know Sainsbury's have them. And that's actually where I get the ones that look like this. So they look a little bit different here. They're not the clicky ones. They're the ones with the cap. They work exactly the same. So they might have these cool fire flames on them. Or just like the clicky ones. But these are my favorite. I have so many. These are the ones I include in all my kits as well. The black version or the purple version or the green version of these ones, because I'm not a big fan of the red, like I said. I tend to use it for like to-do lists and stuff like that. So yeah, so there's my recommendations for pens. If you have any questions about like the thing that we've just talked about, like if you have any questions about pens, then just pop them in down here in the comment box, and then I'll scroll up, have a little look. You also need a pair of scissors. Any kind of scissors will work. I tend to like the embroidery scissors because they're really nice and sharp. These are my new favorite. I've had them for over a year. But they kind of have like a curved edge, and you can get really down close, if you see, to cut your thread really close to the fabric. So I like that. You're going to need a needle. So I have an antique needle. It's a little bit different, a little bit shorter than the needles that you might find in the shop. And I actually forgot to take them out, and they're just over here. My little needle stash. So you've got the DMC 1 to 5 pack, and you can kind of have a look at how the needle that I like is a little bit shorter than the needles. Ooh, let's see if I can do this. That they include here. So these ones here are kind of like the middle size. The big size, I've given them all away. And then you have a lot of the smaller size on the end. So mine has a bigger eye, very comparable to the biggest size that isn't here. And it's a little bit shorter because the bigger size is a little bit taller than this. I think I gave him to my neighbor who was trying embroidery. So that was quite sweet that she wanted to give it a go. So yeah, but this is a really great pack to pick because you can get 1 or 2 strands with the smallest, and then obviously 6 strands with the biggest. So this is actually missing 2 needles in this pack. You don't have to buy the DMC pack though. There's other ones too. I know there's like I think it's called Hoops and Loops or something. Or Loops and, I don't know. I think I was given it from a friend, and she got it at Hobby Lobby, and she didn't want them anymore. I actually don't have them here, but you can also use different needles too. So I know some people really like Chanel needles, and these are going to be a little bit shorter than the embroidery needles. These are Chanel needles. They're going to have a longer eye, bigger, and the shaft of the needle, this part here, is thicker. So some people just swear by these. They really, really love them. And other people like the smaller shaft, if you know what I mean. It's a little bit thinner. You have a little bit more area to work with to hold it, especially if you're going to do French knots or anything like that. So yeah, it's just a personal preference. These are my favorite ones here that I use all the time. So I've got my 6-strand needle here. I'll put it back so you can see the eyes on them. So I've got my 6-strand here. Then I have 1 strand, and then I have 2 or 3 strands. And you can also kind of see that the shaft of the needle goes thinner when you have less strands. Okay, so you kind of want to match the number of strands with the thickness of your needle, because what you're doing here when you're poking your needle through the fabric is you're making holes. So you can totally see here all of these holes where I've poked my needle through on this fabric. So when you make a hole, let's see if I can hold these here so they don't fall out with your needle. Yeah, you're making a hole big enough for 6 strands. And that's why some people have a hard time when they use 1 or 2 strands and they use a really thicker needle and they think, oh, it's just not sitting right and they're not sitting flat. And sometimes it's just you need to change your needle, that's all. Because if you use a thinner needle, you'll make a smaller hole. Yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. You can probably just get away because we're not going to do a lot of really tiny, like we're not going to use 1 strand, I don't think, in this one because of the size of it and everything. We might do a little bit of outlining, but that's pretty much it. So you're going to be okay with whatever needle that you pick. So I would go for just a regular embroidery needle, or if you can get a multi-pack, that would be fab too. So yeah, I tend to waffle. I'm really sorry. I just want to give you all the information. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to miss anything. As far as threads, there's no color numbers. There's no pattern, like, pattern color things or anything like that. Hi, I send you a message about a commission. Ooh, I'll check my other folder then. Because I know sometimes the other folder, it doesn't tell you all of them until you go and click at the very top, and then they'll all pop up. So I will check that right after this live. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it's been a while. I never know. So yeah, the threads that we're going to use, I'm going to use just a regular 6-strand embroidery thread. All of these, they separate into 6 strands. So they look like this. Beauty blogger. Okay. And so how to separate them, you can either pull apart the ones that you like. So I'm going to do 3 strands here. I call it the Y method. And you kind of untwist and put your finger in at the same time. So it makes a Y. Yeah. And they'll untwist that way. So now you have 2 sets of 3. The other way you can do it is to separate just 1 or 2 out that you want. So this is better if you do it 1 by 1. Instead of pulling out 3 at the same time, you'd have to pull out 1 3 times, if that makes sense. So you're just going to pull out the one like this, hold it, and then pull. And then you have your 1 strand. That's there. So yeah, I'll definitely tell you before we get started at the very beginning of the video. If it has a color number on it, I'll let you know. So a lot of these are older threads before I even started doing patterns. I've had them for years and years. And that's why I bought the color chart, because I just didn't write them on there. But some of them do. So if they do have a number on them, I will tell you what number it is. And I'll tell you the number of strands as well, so that we don't get a bunch of people, how many strands, throughout the whole live video. So if you miss it, just wait a while, and when the video saves to IGTV, it'll all be in the description. So if you click on the IGTV video, there'll be a little arrow like that. It's just like a little dirt. And it will tell you the stitch we use and the number of strands that we use as well. So hopefully that will help you. On the YouTube videos, they're there as well. So yeah, so hopefully there's no question or anything like that. As far as what colors to use, obviously some things are that color, but that doesn't mean they have to be that color, if that makes sense. I do not want to update. Leave me alone. So, for example, there's a lot of greenery, but that doesn't mean that all of the greenery has to be green, okay? You can use any colors that you want to, because you have to remember, this is like a tropical kind of jungle feel. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all green. Is there green in a jungle? Yes, there is. But can you change it if you want to? Absolutely. Like, use your imagination. It doesn't have to be that color. Someone else also said they're going to like Lisa Frank all their animals, so make them super fun and colorful instead of the actual colors they are. So if you have a look, even the giraffe kind of has like a not nude, but like natural color scheme to it. You know what I mean? Like light browns and beiges and orange, things like that. Like, if you want to make it pink, make it pink. If you want to make it blue, make it blue. Like, it's okay. It's okay, I promise. And that's the same for any of the animals or any of the elements that are on here. This picture is in the pattern. So, again, there's no color numbers or anything like that, but I have included a big one of this just because this right here is a little bit confusing to trace. And I do know that. So just try your best, concentrate on the lines. Yeah, and you should be okay. Yeah? The hardest part, honestly, will be tracing because of all of the layers in the jungle. So, yeah, hopefully that's all right. I just chose a bunch of bright colors that I liked, dark and light, because you don't want to have the same tone of colors. You don't want it to end up looking pastel, unless you want to, obviously. So for example, I have like some dark pinks, some light pinks, you know, some light purples, some dark purples, and that will give it a nice mix of things there for you to work with. So yeah, if you don't have a lot of colors, that's okay too. Just use what you have. I'm not asking you to go out and get 50 new colors because that can be quite expensive. Yeah, like use what you've got. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, you know? Use it for practice. Use it to just make your skills better. And that's completely okay. All right? Are you with me still? I hope so. All right, we're going to move along. So next thing is fabric, and then I'll show you how to put the fabric in the hoop. And then we'll do some painting of our fabric. And yeah, hopefully that will conclude the prep video, hopefully. So let's talk fabric for a minute. So I like to use 100% cotton, no stretch. Obviously white is a good shout because you can paint it if you want to. You can see through it pretty easily. You can use a color if you want to. There's a lot of greens in that, so you could get a really nice green fabric. Ooh. I was just thinking, did I use green? I did on this other one, on the plant sanctuary one that I haven't even finished yet. But yeah, you could do like a dark green if you wanted to, and then use the sticky solvay like I showed before, where you wash it off with water. So you could use something like that if you wanted to, or you could just paint it. The other thing you can do is applique, and I've shown how to do applique in the Bag of Flowers Stitchalong. So have a look at that one if you want to like take the fabric and stick another piece of fabric on top. You can use something like stick and stay, which is a permanent adhesive, and it makes any two fabrics bond together. You can just stitch it on there, meaning that you lay it on top like this and just kind of stitch the edge a little bit. That's good too. So there's lots of different ideas that you can kind of do, you know, with this one. But with fabric, I like to use a medium kind of weight, just white. This is just cotton. You can use a calico, which is an off-white. You can see it next to it. It looks a little bit yellow or like beige. And it also has these nice little flecks of stuff in there. It's like a natural, unbleached kind of situation. It's a little bit thicker as well, so you can give that a go. Or you could do a linen. Again, a no stretch linen, no stretch. Linen's really nice because it has all these little crosshairs. You can really see the grain of the fabric. I think it looks really beautiful. It also gives a bit of a rustic feel though, so if that's not your thing, then that's totally fine too. So I'll give you a little close-up of all three of these just so you can kind of see what they're like what the grain of the fabric is. Linen will be a little bit of a looser weave. You can really see the warp and the weft, whereas the cotton that I use is a little bit tighter. And obviously the calico is tight too. So hopefully that gives you a good idea. I know in the States you can go for, there's kind of two that you can get at Joann's. And I always bring up Joann's because it's easy. It's an easy place to go get fabric. I'm not a big fan of Hobby Lobby, so Joann's is where it's at. And the two that I'm thinking of, one is called Kona Cotton. It's a little bit thicker. Not really thick, but it's got a nice weight to it. It stitches really beautifully, and there's a lot of different colors. So if you're looking for like a very specific color of green for your background, then hit up Kona Cotton. You can also get it in England, but you'd have to look online because I don't actually know of anyone that carries it like in person. And there's so many different places, you know, here. So the other one at Joann's is called, I always get this wrong, but I think it's called Country Classics Quilting Cotton. And normally it's when you walk through the door at Joann's, it's either on the right or the left where all the fabric is, and it's all the color, the solid colors are all together. And it's much cheaper than Kona Cotton. So those are really great places to start. So it will just be 100% cotton and a plain color. So it can be white, cream, you can get pink, you can get any colors in the Country Classics, and as well as the Kona Cotton. So yeah, questions so far? I feel like I'm like racing through it. I don't mean to. I really, really don't. Okay, I'm going to move on. But if you've got questions, then just pop them down here, yeah? And happy to answer. So when I cut my fabric, you can see all my fabric scraps are shaped like this because I cut the circle out. See? I cut the circle out, don't I? All my fabric scraps are like that, but I just can't get rid of them. So they end up saved. Let's see where we are here. Looks like I need to go fabric shopping. Okay. So a lot of people ask how I figure out how much fabric to use, and it's not like a scientific type situation. I literally put the hoop on the fabric and cut around it. Okay? So it's not going to be like measuring or anything like that. I don't do that. I just kind of guess. Okay? And I like to leave about this much here on the edge. And this is a really great time to have a think about what you want to do with this when you're done. If you want to turn it into like a banner, or if you want to like make it into a patch or something, if you want to sew it onto like a duvet cover or a pillowcase, then you need to think about that now. Okay? This isn't something where you stitch the whole thing for an entire month and then you go, this would be great on the back of a jacket. And then you're like, I don't have enough fabric for this. So have a think about it before you get started. And then you'll kind of know how much fabric to get and know how much fabric to cut. Yeah. So I like to use about this much here. I could get out a little ruler and measure it, and then at least y'all could know exactly what I mean here. Let's use this one. Okay, that's about 2.5 or 2 3/4 of an inch here. 2 3/4 inches, not of an inch. But yeah, I just like to do a big circle around and you're good to go. So especially if you're going to leave it in this hoop, then just that's good. It's a good amount of fabric to work with all the way around as well. So yeah, some people prefer square pieces of fabric. If you want to use a square piece of fabric, or if you know you want to put it into a frame or something when you're done, I would not use a circle hoop. I would use a Q-snap frame. And I'll show you that in just a minute after I'm done cutting. Again, we're not being graded on this because we're going to actually sort all this out at the very, very end. So if you're like, huh, this side has way more fabric than that side, it's fine. Don't, like, you're not getting graded on this part, okay? It's completely fine. And let's just throw this over on the chair there. There we go. See, I've got another piece of fabric. Okay, so this is kind of what we're left with. Hi, Hannah. All right. Now, when we put it in the hoop, you're going to want to know what to do with it first. So if you're going to actually do an applique, then you need to do that first. If you're going to watercolor it, you need to do that first. So we are going to do that right now, but I'll put it in the fabric, or I'll put the fabric in the hoop so that you know exactly kind of what we're looking for and how to do it. Then I'll take it out. I'll get my trash bag and we'll do a little bit of watercolor here for you. So what you're going to want to do is, this is like the most rubbish hoop, but it's what I had out because I was measuring. So the hoops that you can get are 2 pieces. They look like this. When you buy your hoop, what you want to look for is that when you put them together and it's all tight. Now there's different kinds of hardware on here too. So this one right here is just one little pin that you tighten and loosen. Sometimes you'll have it so that you need a screwdriver. So let's see. They look like this. Ooh. Okay, so this is actually a separate piece. So you need to actually hold that and unscrew it. Yeah. And then you also have your screwdriver hole here so that you can really tighten it up. So what you're looking for is that when it's tight, there's no gaps or wobbly bits of wood. So if you can see your hoop before, that is the best, because then you can go through them and kind of have a look at what's great and what's not so great, and pick the best one for you. If you do find that you've got a bit of a gap here, you can actually fill that with washi tape. So you're going to take them apart, unscrew it first. You can take them apart and you can just wrap that area that is loose or has that gap with like a washi tape. Sometimes just doing one area doesn't work so well. Like for this one, I've actually had to wrap the entire inner hoop with fabric, and then I've just taped it into the extra places that needed a little bit more, because this hoop just for some reason had some weird gaps in it. It looked really tight, but when I put my fabric in, it wasn't very nice. So I ended up just wrapping the whole thing. I said, you know what? I'm not playing. I'm just doing it. So yeah, so that's something to look forward to. I'll quickly show you the Q-snap frames, just because a lot of people always ask about what they are. They're here. You can get different sizes. I've got a smaller one in the bag, but this one is actually put together. And it's just PVC pipe with little elbows there. And then you can take this part off. I always struggle with this. Normally I take it apart like this and then slide them off because I can't. And it holds your fabric really tight. And actually I use felt underneath. Oh my gosh. So they go like this. And you put your fabric in over the top, and then you put these. They're really actually easy to use, okay? And then you put these here over your fabric, and they hold your fabric straight and in a square. So there's other sizes. It doesn't have to be a square. I just happen to have 2 square ones. So that's just what I've got. But you can get different arms and stuff as well. So you can get one that are like really, really long on one side and short on the other to make a rectangle. But these are perfect if you want to have something that's in a square. or a rectangle. So maybe you are not keen on the circle design. Put it in a square. That can work too. So that's what the Q-snap frames are. I always find them so... I didn't put it together properly. Leave it to me. Leave it to me. Yeah, but they actually work really well, those Q-snap frames. And they're really nice and tight. So again, that's something. So yeah, so you're going to unscrew this here. You're going to put your fabric in. I like to do my fabric so you look at the grain of the fabric and see where the warp and the weft is straight up and straight over. And I like to make that go straight up and straight over. So I don't like to have it on an angle like this, like an X. I like to have it more like a plus sign. Yeah. Good morning, Mel. Okay, and we're going to put this over the top just like that. Okay, and it looks really, really loose. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is just tighten it halfway. All right. And you can kind of see it's like pinching a little bit. And you're going to pull. So I put this on my stomach here, like against my body. And you're going to pull. See how it tightens that up, the fabric. You're going to pull it just gently. Don't pull it really hard, because this is like a multi-step process here. Okay. You're just going to pull it a little bit all the way around. Okay, it's still not tight. So you're going to tighten it some more. And you can see that it's already poofing there. You're going to pull it again. All the way around. And what you're looking for is you're looking for it to be like a drum sound, like a boom, 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 you know, like an actual drum when you tap it. You can also run your finger around the edge, and that's how you can see if there's any gaps, or if your finger goes down like that into the fabric, that's where you'll have a gap in your hoop, and that's where the hoop is not holding your fabric tight enough. So let's just tighten this again and do one more time. Again, it's not difficult, but it is a thing. Do you know what I mean? What I mean by thing is that you don't just put the fabric in, tighten it once, and you're like, it's done. You want to have a nice straight surface to work on. And this is why we don't have stretchy fabric. That's why we don't want stretchy fabric for this project. I'm not saying you cannot stitch on stretchy fabric. I'm saying that for this project, we don't want it. Okay? So what we need to do, can you hear that? It's a nice tight drum. All right. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about transferring your pattern first, and then we'll get started with watercoloring. So the easiest way that I like to do it is to print off your pattern. You want to make sure you print it at 100%. I know that some printers, when you go to print it, it will print at like 96 or 89%. And that's when you'll get a pattern that's smaller. So when you measure your hoops, they measure them from the outside edge usually, not necessarily from the inside between here. So what we want is we want the pattern to sit inside this right here, because you actually can't stitch through the wood. That's the inside hoop. So when we're printing these out, we want to make sure that they fit right in the middle. Excuse me. So a couple people have said, well, not this stitch along, but in previous stitch alongs, like, oh, it's a little bit too small. It's not 8 inches. It won't be 8 inches. It'll be a little bit smaller because we need it to fit on the inside of this little hoop here. So like that. So the easiest thing, for me at least, is you want to line it up properly. Kind of out there. Yeah. So sometimes it's easy if you go like this, and then you just put it directly behind. Like that. Pretty good. Flip it over, and I use blue tack. You can also use tape if you want to. Use this blue tack like this, and you're just going to stick it down on the paper, and then also up into the wood. Okay? And I do like 3 or 4 of these around in different places. Now I'm also going to show you how to do it if you do not have a printer, so stay tuned. Okay, so after we do it this way, you're going to take your whatever utensil that you like to use, all right, and you can trace it directly from there. So I like to put my fingers right here up against, and then you just start tracing and just slowly move around as, ooh, there's my little Q snap frame. And so just trace it line by line. So the one thing I like to remember when I'm tracing is don't look at it like it's a whole image. Look at it as just I'm tracing the lines. That's it. So if I try to think, where does this line go or what does it make? It just makes me really confused. So literally I'm just going, oop, there's a line there. There's a line there. Okay. The other thing you can do is if you've got a flashlight on your phone, I don't have one on my iPad actually. I don't think I have one. Oh, bummer. I was going to show you. But if you have a flashlight on your, nope, I don't have one on here. If you have a flashlight on your phone, then you can put your flashlight up, facing up, and you can put it right up under here, and you can see all the lines super, super good. There's also an app called Lightbox. I think it's called Lightbox on the iPad that gives you basically the exact same thing. So there's one way to trace. If you do have an iPad, then what you can do is not even print it out and instead go straight to your pattern. So let's see if I have a pattern here. This one. Okay, and you can make it as big as you need to. Put your hoop over top. A little bit bigger, I think. Go in a dark room. Okay, and then you can go straight from there. If you're in a darker room, you can kind of tell if I like give some shadow. It's really, really bright and you can see it really well. So you can see all of the patterns to trace it. Now, some people love to stitch like this. So they have the pattern transferred on this side. Okay, I like to stitch it like this because I like to hold my hoop like that with my fingers just in the inside edge like that. So for me, if I were to use this way, then I would take the fabric and flip it over so that the pattern is on the front. But that's just my personal preference. Some people don't do that till the end. So that's okay too. The other thing that you might want to do if you use your iPad for pattern transfer is use the guided access. So you need to go to settings and go to accessibility. And you're going to go down to guided access. And what guided access does is it lets you not touch anything inside the circle that you draw. So for my iPad, you click 3 times and then you draw a circle around the areas on the screen that you would like to disable. So this is great if you've got children and you only want to keep them in the same app. So you could kind of circle maybe like the top where it says like leave or something like that. I don't know. I don't have kids apps, so I don't know what to do. I don't know anything about that. So you circle the whole thing. Yeah. Wherever you want the kids not to touch or wherever you want the screen not to move. You know? The sun is in my way. Okay, and you push start. Then you enter a passcode. So it can be whatever passcode that you want. Okay, new password. So what happens is that in this circle, you can't touch it. So as you're tracing all of this stuff on your pattern, you actually can't touch any of that. Now, if you touch any of this here, then you will. Okay, then it will change because obviously, you know, you've touched outside the circle. But there we go. End. But that's really great for if you want to use your iPad. The other thing you can do is use your computer screen if you do not have an iPad. Just pretend this is my computer screen. I usually put it like this and then put my hoop right on top of it like that on my computer screen. The third way, there is a third way, is to tape this pattern up to a window. You can use tape or blue tack, and then the light shining through the window, you can actually see the pattern through that way. And that's a great way too if you like to use nature as your guide. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's it as far as like general terms or general tips and stuff for the Stitchalong. The other thing I like to have is a pair of tweezers, because when you cut out things and that you want to change and you want to change the color, or maybe you just stitched it a little wonky, a nice pair of tweezers are always really good. These are just regular ones. I got them at Boots. So just don't use the eyebrow ones, because that's a little bit weird. Just to clarify, these are eyebrow tweezers, but I do not use them for hair. They're only for embroidery. Okay, I'm going to take this out if I can get it undone, because I did actually do it really tight. And we have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to show you how I'm actually going to... Goodness, that was tight. I'm going to show you how I'm going to watercolor this fabric here. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this here just on the table, because I need to know where is the river. Yeah? So this is upside down. Because I'm going to have the river be blue. Just groundbreaking, isn't it? A blue river. The river be blue, and then the background be a green color. So everything else that's on top of the line of the river is going to get stitched over. So don't even worry about like these monstera leaves or this big branch or the toucan or anything like that. All we're looking for is this line here, and you can kind of make it up as you go. So it looks like it starts here and then here. And I'm doing this on a non-stretched fabric. I'm going straight through there because, again, we're going to stitch over these with the rocks like that. I hope you cannot see my head. That would not be amazing. And then I'm just going to kind of go around here just to make sure that I get far enough. I want to make sure that my greenery goes beyond this so I don't have any lines. So this is what we're working with. Your hair looks good. Gosh. Oh. Yeah, I don't show like myself on the Stitchalong videos, so sometimes I'm like, should I show myself? But I'm like, actually, I don't like it when people put it on themselves first and then on the embroidery, because then you have that whole like weird like shifting situation, where everyone gets a bit of whiplash when the camera's moving all over the place, which is why I had to get a different phone holder. I'm just using a cut up garbage bag, okay? This is like not like a watercolor tool. It's just stuff I found around the house. I've got some water here, and I'm using regular children's watercolor paint. I think they're about 4 pounds, and I got them at Hobbycraft. So they look like this. They're just children's paint. Like we are not using fancy stuff here, okay? Got a little paintbrush as well. So there's 2 kinds of ways that you can do this. The first way is a dry painting. So you get your watercolor paint wet, let's see if I can put this in a space where you can see it. So you get your watercolor paint wet, you do not get the fabric wet, and you paint directly on there. So the pros of that is that you can make the paint go exactly where you want it to go. Okay, so that means that there's not going to be any bleeding where the paint kind of spreads out in that kind of way. The other way that you can do it is called a wet on wet. So you get the fabric wet and then you put the watercolor that is wet on top of the wet fabric. Are you with me? I hope so. So the plus with this is that you're going to get a little bit more of a muted color. And if you mess up, you can fix it really easy. Whereas sometimes when you do the wet on dry fabric, it's a little bit difficult to change after. So I'll be doing the wet on wet. Let's do the green first. And that's why we have the bag, because we want to make sure that we don't get our table wet or anything like that. So let's do the green first. And all I'm going to do is just get it wet. And you'll notice that actually after I get it wet, it'll kind of like start to spread out a little bit. So I don't want to get it too close to that line. You see it's wet underneath as well. Now you might be saying, like, this is way too difficult. I cannot do that. Yes, you can. You totally can. There's no like right or wrong here, anything like that. It's just where it goes, it goes. We're also going to be covering up a lot of this too, especially on the line. So if you kind of feel like, ooh, I messed that one up, don't worry about it. You can always go back and paint just your water a little bit darker and cover up some of those places where it might have bled. So let's just try and get a little bit closer there. Okay. And then we need to get a green color. So I'm going to go for a light green first. And then, let's see here. My niece was actually using these before. So all the colors are like not the colors. They're like a bit drippy. Like, thanks, Quinn. I've already splattered, look, onto my thing. So it's okay. So we're going to start kind of in the middle. You might need to do a couple layers of this. You can use different colors of green. It doesn't have to be all one color. I'm not really aiming for like an even all over tone. If that's what you want, you might want to go straight to like an applique or something like that. How I told you about the bee that just like is convinced there's something in here that they want. So you can add darker colors on here too, if you want to add a little bit more like depth. These will be like quite muted because they are watercolors, so just remember that. I've got just a little bit of layering going on. And with watercolor, the more water that you put on the paint, the lighter the color will be. So if you're putting a lot of water on your actual paint here, then your color is going to be really, really light. So that's great if you have a little bit of apprehension. If you're a little bit like, oh, I don't know about this. Paint it, let it dry, and then wait. Wait till it dries, and then you can really see how dark it is, and if you want to make it darker, if you want to keep it lighter. Oh, I'm making a mess. Ooh, and my stomach is grumbling. That's my sign. It's time to go, isn't it? So it doesn't have to be green. You could do like a brown. You can make it like a fun color if you wanted to. Just give it a go. Just try. Good morning, Amelia. Quite a bright green this is, isn't it? And then I'll do the water after. Let's do like a dark color for the water, or maybe like a lighter one with dark in it. Should have gotten my fabric wet. Again, I'm not getting really close to that line because it will bleed a bit. Just give it a go. You know, if you hate it, get more fabric and try again. You can always use a different technique if you are not a fan of this. Now, these colors here kind of blending together, that doesn't really bother me. Oh, Jessie saw a bird. It doesn't really bother me, but for some people it might really bother them. So yeah, that's just something you kind of have to think about. You can always do one of them first and then do the other one. So this is kind of what it looks like so far. And the reason it's doing that is because I have a crease in my trash bag. Do you see? Kind of want to not use that anymore because it was going so well. And what you're going to want to do with this too is lay it flat to dry, because if you put it up and down, all your colors are going to run. Let's take that, put it away. Actually, I have the other half of my trash bag here, so I'm going to see if I can't really quickly just kind of push that. Push that down. Okay. I can't go over an hour or else I can't save it. Which is why I keep looking at the thing. Yeah, so that's not bad. I'm going to leave it like that for a little bit. And then if I want to go back and put another, as I say that, I'm like, ooh, let's add some dark. Let's add some dark little lines in there. So I'm going to leave it like this for a little bit. And if I want to make it darker, then I can always go back and add another layer on top of it. Okay, so when this is all dry, I will then put it into my hoop and then trace the pattern on top of it. I will say, if you are looking to use a sticky solvay, then do not use watercolor, because what will happen is when you go and wash off your sticky solvay, your watercolor paint will also fade. So that happens even if you heat press it, everything. I found really nothing that works that I found, but you might know something that works. So if you know it will work, then do it, you know? But I haven't actually found anything that works really well for that yet. I'm going to put this over on the table just a minute for that. So if you want to use the sticky solvay, I would definitely go straight to just a regular color and not actually do watercolor for that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that was helpful. I've actually just painted on my table here, so that's fabulous. I'm gonna have a dark blue spot on my wood table. I'll just what's it called? Sand it off. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything like that, I'm going to end the video now. But if you've got any questions or anything, just make sure you message me. I'll check my other folder too for the other message that I've missed from someone. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. If you have a friend who wants to join, please tag them in the post or send them to us, so we can get more people involved, because it's so fun to see everyone's hoops. I love it so much. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Thursday. The Stitchalong starts Monday the 12th of July, so you still have a little bit of time left to gather your materials and transfer your pattern and everything like that. We'll start stitching on that Monday. So if you don't have your pattern transferred, you're going to need to do it before Monday, because we're going to actually start stitching on that day. Okay? So enjoy. I missed you guys so much, and I'll speak with you later. All right? Bye.